Income Tax 2020, Practice Problem 1, Presentation 47, Rental Property, Schedule E, Data Input. Come in, relax with Income Tax 2020. Here we are in our Lacerte Tax software. You don't need the Lacerte Tax software to follow along. However, I do think they have a 30-day free trial, so if you can get access to a promo or demo version of it or any other tax software, could be a good tool to practice with. We're continuing on with our comprehensive practice problem number 1. This time we're looking into and continuing on with our Schedule E. So we're looking at our Schedule E, and we're going to do the data input. So we've put our information from, say, the client or our bookkeeping system in our little worksheet over here, and now we're going to start to do the data input into the system. We're going to have one adjusting entry for sure over here, and that's going to be the depreciation. So we're going to assume this depreciation is calculated correctly, and I'm going to pull that on over. So let's do that one adjustment first. So I'm going to go back on over. I'm going to add another line here so we can do our adjustment. So I'm going to select these 3 columns or rows, and then I'm going to say, or cells, insert, and then I'm going to shift it down, and this is going to be then depreciation. I'm going to put a 0 here, and there we have it. And let's see if my totals add that up. They do there, and they do there, and they do that. That one doesn't. Why didn't it do it there? I'm going to go ahead and select these 2 and autofill, make sure my totals kind of pick that number up. And then it's going to be a debit to depreciation. I'm going to debit depreciation, and that is going to be for 6970, I'm going to say 6970. And then the other side, you might say, well, where's the other side could go? It should go to like accumulated depreciation, but I don't have a balance sheet up top. So I'm just going to put it to the balance sheet because all I see is my income statement here. So it would go somewhere on the balance sheet, which would be accumulated depreciation. And so then we're going to make their adjustment. So I'm going to say, all right, there's going to be our adjustment, and that's going to be a 6,970. And then on the balance sheet would be the other side, balance sheet, other side. And that would then take us back to 0. So debits equal the credits. And now we have a loss. The positive number represents a loss, income being less than the expenses. So now I'm simply going to go through and do the data input from here into the system. And so I'm going to go back on over. Now, if you had 2 screens, this would be easier to do the data input. But I'm going to do this jumping back and forth thing, which just shows amazing dexterity of going back and forth like this. So we're going to say this is going to be, so it's going to be impressive. So we're going to say this is going to be 55,000 for the income. All right. And then you might want to like greenify these things as you go. And it might be easier also to like hide these 2 columns. So you're just looking at 1 column at a time. Anything to make it easier on the eyes. So maybe I'll select these 2 columns and hide them now as we do the data input, and that'll make it easier. So then I'm going to select these, I'm going to greenify them as we go, and that'll hopefully be a little bit easier. And I can greenify that. I didn't enter that. We don't enter the balance sheet. And then we're on the expenses. So I'll make this all green until we get down to the expenses. So now we're on insurance expense. So that's 2 3s. So I'm going to go down to the insurance 2300 and go back on over. And then we have the interest of the 20,000. Okay, so I'm going to go back on over. We're going to have interest, and I'm going to say 20. All right, back on over. Seems kind of high, but then we're going to say the professional fees, 7,000. So professional, say legal and professional. We'll go with that, 7,000. There's that. Done. Repairs and maintenance. Now notice that's kind of high, so you might look in that and say, hey, should we be capitalizing any of that, and check that out. But I'm going to say we're going to go ahead and move forward with it. Repairs and maintenance. So I'm going to say that was 16,000. So again, you might want to obviously look into that and see if they need to capitalize anything on that. But we're going to push forward with the data input here. It's not letting me right click on it. Property taxes, 6,000. So we're going to go to taxes, real estate, 6,000. And all right. And then utilities, not letting me right click on it again. It's really annoying. Utilities, 720 on the utilities. 720. And then the depreciation should calculate for us because that we pulled over that from the software. So I'm going to go back on up and say, did that depreciation check off the way it should? 6970, that should match up. So we should be at the 33, and we're not. So there's some difference I have up top. So I'm going to double check everything here. It looks like the problem is with the income. I messed up the income. So I'll go back on over and fix that. That should be 55. And now let's check it again. Back on over to the forms. And so now we should have that 3990. 3990. So there's our net income there. So that looks pretty good. We got the data input going to the 3990. And that 3990 then is a loss at this point in time, and it's flowing over then to the first page of the 1040 ultimately, and it'll be decreasing a component of the 1040, which is going to be on the Schedule 1, coming from the Schedule 1. So we got the Schedule C, other gains, and then here's the rental and real estate that's flowing into that 51606 that's flowing to the 1040 line 8. So that's going to the 1040 line 8. So we'll kind of review that next time, and then we'll update this information in our Excel worksheet as well.